Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, we're going deep on sonar and diving safety.
Really diving deep.
Everyone knows the basics of sonar,
Sure.
but we're going way beyond that. We're going into the U.S. Navy Diving Manual,
Yeah.
specifically Appendix 1A.
Oh, the safe diving distances from sonar.
You got it.
Okay.
It's all about, how to stay safe when there's active sonar around.
And that's important for anyone diving near it, really. Researchers, commercial divers, even recreational sometimes.
Right. It's not just a Navy thing.
No, not at all. And the manual, it makes it very clear
Yeah.
that it's the sound pressure level.
The SPL,
Yes, the SPL, that's the critical factor.
not just like distance.
Right, because you could be pretty far away from a lower power sonar and be fine,
Right.
but much closer to a higher power one
And have problems.
Exactly. And the manual actually breaks it down by sonar model.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so you can, look up the specific model and see what the...
Oh, that's useful.
It is. It lays out the safe distances and then these things called permissible exposure limits.
PELs.
Yeah, the PELs. That's basically how long you can be exposed to a specific SPL.
So we're talking like more than just hearing loss here, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Above 215 dB, there are some pretty interesting effects listed.
Interesting.
Well, interesting might not be the right word. Things like visual disturbances, where your field of vision temporarily shifts.
Whoa, wait. Like imagine that happening during a dive.
Yeah.
That's scary.
It can be pretty unsettling.
Is that common?
The manual doesn't really say how common each effect is, but it lays out like the range of risks.
Yeah.
It's not just your ears you got to worry about.
But what else is there?
Well, it even mentions like sonar vibrations making your face mask fog up, or even like spraying water inside.
No way. That's more than unsettling. That's like dangerous.
Yeah, if it happens unexpectedly, that could really throw you off.
Big time.
Yeah.
Does your gear, like the type of suit you're wearing, does that make any difference?
It makes a huge difference. The manual, it differentiates between wetsuits,
Okay.
hooded versus unhooded,
Okay.
and then like the full helmeted rigs.
Oh, right, like the KM37.
Exactly. And a hooded wetsuit is highly recommended.
Oh, so it's kind of like earplugs, but for underwater.
Yeah, kind of. It provides a good amount of protection.
Interesting. Does the helmet, does that do anything special?
It does. It actually gives you additional dB reduction, but only at deeper depths.
Oh, wow. So wait, are you saying deeper dives might actually be safer around sonar?
If you've got the helmet, yes.
That's kind of counterintuitive.
It is, and it just shows how much detail is in this manual. It's not just like basic safety stuff.
No kidding. Okay, I'm starting to see just how much is packed in here.
Yeah, and we haven't even touched on what happens when you have multiple sonars going at once.
Oh, man. Or those...
Or the low-frequency sonar.
Yeah, the weird ones.
Right, those are unique challenges.
Okay, we got to get into those. But first, I kind of want to look at those tables with the safe distances and all that.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, so let's take a closer look at these tables in the manual.
Yeah, the safe distance tables.
Yeah. They actually list, like, specific safe distances.
Based on the sonar model, right?
Yeah, you got it. They break it down by model because remember, each sonar's got a different power output.
Right, right.
So you'll see, columns for like the ANSQS 53A,
Sure.
the ANSQS 53B, and so on.
Makes sense.
And then the rows will show like the SPLs
Mm-hmm.
and the corresponding PELs for that sonar.
Right, right. So if you know what sonar they're using and how long you want to be down there, you can just find your safe distance.
Exactly.
Okay, but you mentioned earlier that the depth can actually reduce the impact of the sonar,
Oh, yeah.
at least for helmeted divers. How does that, work with these tables?
Good question. The manual, it's got separate tables for the depth reductions.
And they'll list, the dB reduction you can subtract from the SPL at
okay.
different depths.
Got it.
But that only applies if you're wearing a helmet.
So it's like you get bonus safety points for going deeper, but only with the right gear.
Exactly. But what happens if you don't actually know the exact SPL at your dive site?
Right, because you can't always, get that information beforehand.
Really?
You just have to, guesstimate.
Well, you could, or you could just stay really far away from any sonar just to be safe.
Yeah.
But the manual actually has a method for estimating the SPL.
Really?
Yeah, based on your distance from the source.
Oh, interesting.
You use the same tables, but you kind of work in reverse.
Oh, okay.
So if your distance falls between two values on the table,
Yeah.
you always go with the shorter distance just to be conservative.
So if I know my distance, I can use the table to figure out, the approximate SPL and then find the corresponding PEL.
Yeah, exactly.
Clever.
Yeah.
But remember how we talked about Dooney cycle?
Oh, right. How often the sonar is actually pinging.
Yeah, yeah. These tables, they're based on a 20% duty cycle, right?
That's right.
But in real life, sonar operation can vary a lot.
Oh, for sure.
So how do we, account for that
Well,
when we're planning a dive?
Well, the manual gives us a formula for that.
Okay.
You adjust the PL based on the actual duty cycle.
Okay.
So you take the PL from the table,
Yeah.
multiply it by 20, and then divide by the actual duty cycle percentage.
So if the sonar is pinging more often, my safe dive time gets shorter.
Exactly.
And if it's pinging less, I might have a bit more time.
That's right. It's all about understanding that relationship between the sonar activity and the potential impact on you.
This is starting to feel like a sonar safety equation.
Yeah.
Like we're plugging in all these different variables to find that safe zone.
Exactly.
But what about when there are multiple sonars operating?
Ooh. Yeah.
That seemed like the most complicated scenario.
It is more complex, but the manual has us covered. It introduces this concept of noise dose.
Noise dose, or ND.
Yeah, ND.
Yeah.
And it's basically, figuring out the cumulative effect of all the sonar exposure.
Right. From all the different sources.
Exactly.
Okay.
So to calculate ND, you divide the dive time for each sonar by its PEL, and then you add those ratios together.
Okay.
And the key is you got to keep that total ND below 1.0.
So it's like a sonar budget. We can't spend more than 1.0.
I like that. Yeah, the sonar budget.
Okay, but how do we, actually apply this in a real dive?
Okay, so let's say you're diving for 30 minutes.
Okay.
And there are two sonars nearby.
Right.
Sonar A, let's say it has a PL of 60 minutes, and sonar B has a PL of 120.
Okay, so two different sonars, different PLs, 30 minutes underwater.
Right. So first, we plug those numbers into the ND formula.
Okay.
For sonar A, we divide the dive time, 30 minutes, by its PL, 60 minutes.
Which gives us 0.5.
Right. And then for sonar B, we divide 30 minutes by 120 minutes.
That's 0.25.
Exactly. And then we add those together.
0.5 plus 0.25, that's 0.75.
There you go. That's your total noise dose for this dive.
0.75, well below 1.0.
So in this scenario, you're good to go, even with two sonars nearby.
Okay, so it really is about, assessing the overall risk.
Yes. Taking all the active sonars into account.
Okay, I'm starting to see how this all fits together. The tables, the PLLs, the duty cycle, the noise dose.
It's a lot to consider.
It is.
Yeah.
But it's clearly super important for safety.
Absolutely. And this manual, it really lays it all out for us.
We still got those special cases, right?
Oh, yeah. Low frequency and ultrasonic sonar.
The weird ones.
They operate under a different set of rules.
Let's get into those after a quick break. Okay, so those tables and calculations.
It's a lot to take in, right?
Yeah, it really is. But now I'm kind of curious about those special cases, those
The low frequency sonar and the ultrasonic?
yeah, the ones that seemed different.
Yeah, they are a bit different. Let's start with the LFS.
Okay.
Low frequency sonar. So that's operating between 160 and 320 hertz. And this type, it's known for causing these really unusual sensations.
Right. The manual mentioned dizziness, vertigo,
Yeah.
even skin tingling.
Yeah.
That's not exactly what you want to be experiencing during a dive.
No, not at all. It can be really disorienting.
It sounded kind of like sci-fi almost.
And it does the manual. It specifically says to be extremely cautious around LFS.
Yeah.
Because those sensations, they can be debilitating.
Oh, wow.
And to make things worse, LFS can seriously mess with underwater communication.
Oh, no. So not only are you dizzy and tingling,
Yeah.
you can't even talk to your team.
It can be really tough to communicate.
That's super dangerous.
Yeah, it is. That's why having backup plans is crucial.
What kind of backup plans?
Well, prearranged line pulls.
Oh, okay.
Or hand signals. You can't rely on your usual methods.
Right. So communication's key. What about the ultrasonic sonar?
Yes. So that one's operating at much higher frequencies, 250 kilohertz and above. Okay.
And it's less about those weird physical sensations and more about potential heating effects.
Heating, I'm going to get a sunburn underwater.
No, not like that.
Okay.
But, if you're too close to the source or you linger in the beam's focus for too long,
Yeah.
there could be some localized heating.
So just stay away from it.
Yeah, basically. The manual recommends at least 10 yards away.
10 yards. Got it. But there was that one part in the manual that seemed kind of weird. It said it's okay to briefly touch the transducer head.
On the ultrasonic sonar.
Yeah, to check if it's working.
Right.
It's wait, didn't you just say stay 10 yards away?
It does seem a bit counterintuitive. after all those warnings.
It does.
But I guess it just shows that, sometimes you gotta get hands-on.
Yeah.
You can't always rely on, like, calculations and theory.
Right, right. You get use your judgment.
Exactly. Diving, it's not just about, memorizing the manual,
It's about applying that knowledge in the real world.
which can be unpredictable.
For sure.
Well, this has been really eye-opening.
I'm glad.
I feel like I've learned a lot,
Good, good.
but also, like, I'm a little more aware of just how complex this all is.
Yeah, it's definitely more complicated than it might seem at first.
So before we wrap up, any final thoughts for our listeners out there?
Yeah, I think the big takeaway here is this manual, it's a great starting point,
Okay.
but our understanding of sonar's effects on divers, it's always evolving.
Right. It's not like a set in stone kind of thing.
Exactly. There are new types of sonar being developed all the time.
Oh, wow.
And the research is ongoing.
So stay curious.
Yes. Stay informed, and most importantly,
Stay safe.
absolutely.
Great advice. So to recap, know your sonar, understand your limits, and don't be afraid to ask questions.
Good ones. Yeah.
The underwater world, it's amazing,
It is.
but we got to explore it safely.
With the right knowledge and a healthy dose of caution.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Yeah.
Well, I think we've successfully navigated this sonar deep dive.
I think so too. It's been a good one.
And to our listeners, we hope you found it valuable as well
We'll see you next time.
for another deep dive. Until then, happy diving, everyone.